Hey everyone, in this video we're just going to do an example of how to use Postman to access the vManage API. The first thing I want to do though is to show you where you can find the documents. So there is a link, and I'll put it in the description, from Cisco SD WAN docs.cisco.com. And in here, you can see a few different things. Um, this page really here, using the REST API, is a good introduction on how to do it. The other place you can go to, though, is if you go to your vManage and you replace this with API docs, it'll bring up a page that does take slow to load. But once it does load, we'll be able to see some of the API operations we have. And there's a pretty big list, so we could scroll through and see the giant list. Um, but we can also drill into one of them, and in it you could see the different, API options. If you click any of them, you could see the schema, any parameters you might need to put in there, and you could even try it out. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to go to Postman. I'm going to create a really couple basic API calls so we could take a look. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new environment. So I'm just going to call this one lab SD-WAN. And we're going to create 4 variables. The first variable is just going to be vManage with my initial value of 10.0.80.11 because that's my lab. The next one is going to have to be j_username. And I created an API user. We'll use that. Then j_password. And this one I just did Cisco 123. Nothing fancy. And then port. So the vManage calls are 8443. Now that we have this, let's add it. We can go to environment and select lab SD-WAN. Now we'll use those parameters in our API calls. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to authenticate so we can get a cookie. Now the reason we need this is so that we can use it to make more API calls. I created a folder already, and this is just so that I can make this video go by a little bit quicker. So I'll go to authentication and I'll walk you through what's going on. So we're using a post call, and it's to our vManage. So 10.0.80.11, and then our port /J security check. In the headers, we have to use a content type of application /x www form URL encoded. And then the body, we have our J username and J password. Now, if you're wondering where I got this application from URL encoded, if we go back to that document page here, it is in here somewhere. Here, encoded. Here we go. To establish a session to vManage server. It tells us basically exactly what I'm doing here, but the input for the application content type has to be that. So all this stuff is in the docs when you're doing API calls, but I just wanted to show you anyway kind of how it works. So now that we have this, we can send this, and we see we got a status 200 OK. And now we have our cookie. And we can use this cookie, or this cookie will be used for us to make more API calls. So I have a couple more here. You could actually get these from Cisco, and I'll go ahead and put them in the description as well. But let's go to Fabric devices. And now we're using get, and we're using vManage port data service /device. And again, this is going to be, it's in here as well somewhere, API calls. So from the doc as well, to illustrate how API calls and API responses, we use the call that retrieves a list of all devices in the network. To retrieve this list, use this URL, which we are doing. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to retrieve and list of all devices in the network. So the headers, not much. There's 8 hidden. So let's take a look. And we're using the cookie. And this cookie was what we just got on the last thing we did. So we didn't have to put anything in here. It's just, this was created automatically. Now let's click send. And I'm going to hide those auto-generated ones. And we can see again, we got a status 200 OK. We can look down here and we see we have a bunch of values. So here's our vManage. Looks like here's the vSmart. We have our vBond. And now we're starting to get, here's a C edge, here's vEdge 1, and vEdge 2. And that's all we have. So here's the response in some JSON formatting. And you can see it's really easy to do. You just get, at this URL or URI. As long as you do an authentication first, you can get there. Now, to show you what else we could do with this is if we click on code, we could use Python requests, and now we have all this code we could take and move it into our application or script that we created. We can also do the same thing with authentication, is take the code. So, here's this, and maybe we want to, do the authentication first in our code and then start doing other things. So again, we could, take a look at device status, which all it is it's just a separate URI, and all this stuff is in the documentation. So data service / device / monitor, you have the cookie, you don't need to do anything else. Click send, it's a GET request, status okay. And now we have a bunch of, the status is normal for these devices. So that's it for this video. It's super short, but just wanted to show you how to make API calls to the vManage API with Postman. Again, your best friend is going to be the docs, both here and here. Because again, you can see maybe if I wanted to do system / device / bootstrap devices, I can get a bootstrap config for vEdges. Wanted to do templating, template configuration, device templates. I want to attach a device template to a device. We could do that through an API call. So that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.